welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. So today's video is going to be 5 things you should think about before getting an Australian Shepherd. I did a lot of research before I ended up getting any dogs of my own, so I did know some things about the breed and I found videos like this helpful. So if you are thinking about getting an Australian Shepherd, stay tuned. Okay, so number 1, exercise is basically non-negotiable. And not just like any kind of easy exercise, like your Australian Shepherd is gonna need some mental stimulation as well. So when I just had Leo, it was actually a lot more on me to come up with creative ways and things to burn off his energy and keep him happy too. It's not just about burning off his energy. I think that their quality of life is way better when they get the exercise they need. So Leo would actually get bored of the chuck it. So we would do the chuck it until he would get bored, which happened fairly quickly. And then we would have to come up with alternative things. So I would go for runs with him. I would play soccer with him on big soccer fields. I would take him to the dog park. I would take him swimming, all of those things to kind of mix it up and keep it interesting for him. He actually didn't end up liking swimming until he was close to a year old. So that became a thing later. He doesn't necessarily still like getting wet, but he does seem to like to swim, especially when it's hot out. But regardless, like it's a good way to mix up exercise for him. Cooper, by comparison, who's his younger brother, loves swimming. He is a water boy. Now I do have to say, ever since I got Cooper, so Leo is 2 years old and Cooper is 1. Once I got Cooper and once Cooper got a little bit older, I mean they were really good when they were younger too, but once they were like more compatible for running and playing size, I do have to say my job in coming up with creative things to do has gotten way easier because they just play with each other and run with each other and really burn each other off. So I pretty much take them to the beach, I'll bring a chuck it. It's not like they're bringing back and forth all the time. The chuck it just gets them moving and then they're chasing each other and playing and doing all these things. So that, in that sense of having to, has made the exercise piece a little bit easier on my end. Number 2, Australian Shepherds all are very different, but in my experience with my boys and what I've seen with other dogs, they're not necessarily the most social with people. So Leo, for example, is pretty wary of other people. He's not wary in an aggressive way, but he's not very interested. He doesn't enjoy pets from other people. He just kind of likes to like observe and keep his distance and do his thing. He is so loyal and has so much love for like me and my pretty much direct family. There are still some closer family members where he's kind of like, I'm not sure about you. But for the most part, he's kind of like, well, he's my baby boy, but he's pretty loyal to like a very select amount of people. He's not gonna like go up to everyone and just be so excited to see them and want to be pet and all of those things. Cooper is also very wary of people. He doesn't really like people approaching him. Again, he's not aggressive, but he does have a bark. So he will bark at people. But he does actually like being pet more than Leo does. So he might bark at somebody and then eventually let them, well, not eventually, and then he will pretty much immediately let them pet him. So it's something that I've been having to actively work on that's been actually somewhat challenging with Cooper in particular because of the bark. It does set off Leo, it makes people uncomfortable even though he's not aggressive, and then his next reaction when he does decide that like, oh okay, look, they're fun and I want to be pet, is to jump on them. So it's been a whole thing. But number 2 is just, if you want the most people-friendly dog who's gonna like want to be friends with every single one of your family members and friends and things like that, they're probably not the dog for you. Number 3, can you handle lots of shedding? These dogs do shed a ton. I do have to say that Leo and Cooper have pretty different coats actually. Leo's fur, like his hair length, is a little bit shorter than Cooper's, and he does have more wiry hair. I had another fellow Aussie owner tell me, and I don't know if this is true or not, but that the more wiry-haired Australian Shepherds come from a more working line, and then the more softer-haired ones come from like a more companion line of Australian Shepherds, which actually characteristically for my boys seems to be true. Leo's got the wiry hair, and he does like having more jobs. Like he's more of a police when he's out with other dogs in terms of like herding everyone and like getting everyone in order and making sure everyone's together, while Cooper is definitely more of like, I just want to play. Like he doesn't have as much of that herding working dog instinct. And again, like because he does like to be pet for pretty much everyone, those characteristics seem to be true. Also, on that note of the shedding, wiry-haired, with Leo, and this is just my own experience, but with Leo having the wiry hair, I do think that I find more of his hairs everywhere. Cooper will have like little tufts of hair that come out. Regardless, if you want an Australian Shepherd, you will need to get very comfortable with delinting yourself, having to vacuum quite often, and consuming lots of dog hair. I know that sounds disgusting, but like the amount of times that I find just little stray dog hairs, it's not like a ton of it, but like you'll find one or two like in your food if your dogs are around you all the time. They just like flies off and then ends up in your food. If that doesn't turn you off, more power to you. You could be ready to get an Australian Shepherd. Maybe they'll be a good dog for you. The number 4 thing to know before getting an Australian Shepherd is that their personalities are so hilarious. They are so goofy. Their personalities are all very different, so don't like count on every single Australian Shepherd being the same. But like Leo, for example, he talks to me all the time, and we're not talking like barking. He makes his like little Australian Shepherd noises all the time. He likes to be talked to. Leo actually likes watching TV whenever I tell him if he wants to watch a show. He gets super excited. He'll jump up on the couch and like be ready to watch his little TV show. So he talks a lot, and he also has what they call an Aussie smile, which is when they snarl. It's not like an aggressive snarl, it's actually because they're like really excited. And I think it's also technically a submissive behavior, but it's like a happy thing. Again, not all Aussies do this. Cooper, I think, has only like done an Aussie smile a couple of times. And his seems to be more true to like a submissive behavior. Like if he's being bad or something, he might show me a little Aussie smile. Cooper's personality, he's way quieter than Leo, but he is still so goofy. He actually loves snuggling way more than Leo does. So Cooper will sleep with us. He has to put his head on one of our heads when we're sleeping, either mine or Adam's, and he just loves hugs and all of the pets and things like that. But he's quieter. He's definitely not quite as talkative. He's so silly though. Both of them are super goofy. So if a goofy personality is your thing, they could be a good breed for you. The number 5 thing and last thing that I think you guys should know before getting an Australian Shepherd is they are prone to certain issues, and one of those in particular is seizures. So one of the breeders that I had, actually I wasn't even made aware of this until I got Cooper, and that breeder was telling me I should get him genetically tested for the MDR1 gene. And I had never heard of this before, but apparently it's fairly common. This isn't true for all Australian Shepherds, but it's fairly common that they will have the MDR1 gene, which actually I think it makes it more susceptible for them to get seizures. But what you need to know about it in particular is there are certain medications from the vet that they absolutely cannot have. I think there are certain lines of like flea and tick medications they can't have and other things like that. So it's really good to look into what to potentially steer clear of, or what particular ingredients would be better over another, things like that, because the MDR1 gene, if they do take these medications, their body can't process it, and it turns into a neurotoxin that's irreversible. So I think like over time that can cause seizures, brain damage, things like that, that again are irreversible. So once the toxin is in their body, they can't get rid of it. And that's really the last thing to keep in mind. I have loved having Australian Shepherds. They have definitely uplifted my life in a lot of ways, but I will be honest and say that they do stress me out in other ways as well, because like I said, exercise is pretty much non-negotiable. I mean, I have not exercised them here and there, and they actually for the most part do fine, but I can tell that they're definitely not as happy when they don't get their exercise. Cooper, when he was younger, if he wasn't mentally stimulated enough, so if he was bored during the day, he had a chewing problem, so he would chew molding, he chewed our couch cushions, all kinds of things like that. So you just have to be prepared to cater to your Aussie's needs and come up with ways to make sure that they're not getting bored and getting the exercise they need, because you want to provide for them a good life too. And I will say, I work on this every day with them. I love my boys so much, but patience, they try my patience so often. It can be pretty hard, especially having two. So if you're tired or having a bad day, they are pretty needy for me in particular. It's probably because I spoil them a lot. So I have to exercise my patience when they're not listening, or honestly, even if I have to exercise them on a short time frame, things like that. So just be prepared to have your patience tried. And you probably won't succeed all the time with them. Cooper in particular really struggled with his listening. They're really smart dogs, so it can be really hard to sometimes, be in charge. So when Cooper was younger in particular, I really struggled. He tested my patience a lot, and I've learned a lot from him, and I've grown a lot from him too, and we've gotten better, but I still slip up here and there. So yeah, just know that they will probably try your patience, as probably any dog will for the most part. And I definitely encourage you to think about where you're at in your life. If you're really ready for a dog, can you make the commitment? Do you have the space for them? Do you want to exercise them all the time? Can you deal with the fur? Do you have people who are allergic to them around you all the time? So many things to think about. Do you have time for a puppy? If you don't have time for a puppy, maybe you can look at adopting an older Australian Shepherd from a rescue. So there's just so many different options to look into and consider. But with that, in my experience, like I said, I find them to be worth it, but I don't mind all the things. Oh my gosh, they are crying outside my door. They need my attention. So with that, if you found this video helpful at all, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps my channel in my wee little baby phases of trying to make this YouTube thing happen. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content, and I will see you guys later. Bye dudes.